So we're going to go straight into it, obviously with the Society for Music Production Research. Be brilliant to have you on board. We have various memberships available. Please feel free to join us through the musicproductionresearch.org site. And we'll move straight on to our first event of the day. I'm extremely excited to be sharing this with you. Introducing you to Pascal de Mul, who is CEO of Setmixer, ex-Spotify engineer, all kinds of amazing, interesting stuff. Really excited to be able to have Pascal talk to you about what they're up to in Setmixer.
Thanks, Tim, and thanks for all of you to have me here. I'm delighted. I'm the founder and CEO of Setmixer, and Tim asked me to tell you a little bit about what we do, what we try to do, and of course, this is my favorite topic to talk about. So I'll try to keep it in 10 minutes. If you give me 10 hours, I would fill it. But yeah, as Tim said, my name is Pascal de Mul. I used to be at Spotify. I was one of the first people there, like one of the first 100. I did all the hardware partnerships there. So if you use Spotify in your car, your Sonos, your PlayStation, or your TV, then you've got me to blame for that experience. But one thing that happened at Spotify is like, we kind of transformed the music industry together. It was an amazing number of years that I spent there. But one thing that I kind of felt was missing is a very big part of the music industry for me, because as some other people here, I grew up with bootlegs. And I used to have a stack of cassettes in my room, and more than half of those cassettes were bootlegs. I just love listening to artists singing their hearts out in front of their fans. There's nothing better than that. But going into Spotify, I see like Spotify is a great distribution. Well, it's the perfect distribution method for music from record labels and from recording studios. But there are no bootlegs on Spotify, because bootlegs were never official. And so I started looking into, well, how can we solve that? Because I have a definite need to listen to this stuff. How can we get that organized? And I spoke to a lot of artists, and the answer is actually, nobody's recording. It's not just that there's no distribution, there's also no recording. We estimated there's about 7.5 million concerts happening. You speak to artists, all of them confirm, sometimes they have the evening of their life, everything worked, all the chemistry was there, and they walk off the stage and there's nothing left. And I think that's a shame. I think it's even more, I think it's almost criminal that kind of content is not captured. So that's where Setmixer comes in. That's what we wanted to do. We basically want to turn every performance into a release. That's the whole mission of Setmixer, recording everything so we don't miss any of these dual moments. And so what we've created is a system for recording and distributing of music. So what we have is an automatic recorder, which is completely home built. It connects to a mixing desk, a wide range of compatible mixing desks, and it records all the incoming channels of the mixing desk. So we don't record the front of house mix, we record the incoming channels in full multi-track. And then we have some AI-informed live filters. We don't call it mixes, because if you give a multi-track to a mixing engineer and they spend a couple of days on it, you get a much better results. But what we have is a filter that gives something that the artist can release within 12 hours. And that speed, that's essential, because then you capture the kind of the concert high of the audience. The next morning, the audience can have that. And so in order to reach that audience that quickly within 12 hours, we also had to create our own distribution method. So we also allow the artist to distribute straight to the audience using the Setmixer platform. So for venues, what that generates is like, well, if you have our recorder installed, you basically have a complete archive of every single show that happened at your venue at your fingertips at any time. You can just go back 2 years if you want to and listen to every single show. Plus, you make extra money out of these shows, and I will explain how. For the artists, it is an ultimate fan memento. It's for them, so the artists can listen to it, but they can also share this with their fans. And that's a really quick process. So they just upload a picture, the artist sets a price. We believe it's fundamental that the artist is in control. They set the price, they share a link, they keep their copyright. There's no lasting contract. They can withdraw it from sale whenever they want. They're totally in control. And when they create that link, they can share that with their fans. Fans click on the link and they can buy it with a simple Apple Pay double click, or Google Pay, or any other method. and really quickly get that content of the show that you just visited. So the next morning you could be listening to that same show. And if you shout it at the right time, it will be on that recording. And essential to the whole model is we feel that this needs to be fair. So we pay 70% back to the artist, which is more than any label pays them. So the artists actually make most of the money out of this, and there's no cost and no risk and no loss of copyright. So it's a completely new system that I think is the fair system that should be there. So our business model, as I said, we really believe in a fair remuneration. We share 70% of any income that we have from fans with the artist, but we also give 10% to the venues because we really feel that the big problem in the grassroots industry is that these venues take the first punt on all these artists, like Ed Sheeran, Coldplay, even Adele went through grassroots venues first. And so these venues gave these artists a leg up at the time when they needed it. But then when these artists become massively successful, the venues don't get any of the upside. So we want to change that. If an artist releases it on Setmixer and somebody buys this or listens to it in 10 years from now, the venue still makes 10%. So we want to create an ecosystem where grassroots venues are remunerated for putting great artists on stage. But also there's a backup. Like if the artist doesn't like our automatic filter, they can also download the full multitrack and mix it themselves. And that is at a price that the venue sets. So the venue chooses what the cost of that is, and we share that revenue back 50-50 with the venue as well. So there's literally zero cost for venues, there's zero cost for artists, and we share most of our revenue back to the industry. So this is a model that is kind of unrivaled in the industry this way. And of course, I can share hundreds of reviews from venues who love what we're doing, and the same with artists. So where are we now? So we're serving a lot of venues. Our strategy is to kind of go into all these venues. These venues have hundreds of artists on stage every month. So if we are in 835 venues in the UK, which we are currently fully focused on, then we would have 35,000 set mixes every month for 340,000 artists, and that caters to 37 million ticket holders. There's more ticket holders in the UK than there are premium streaming subscribers. So this is a massive market that we're catering for. How are we doing so far? Well, we're doing pretty well, I think. We've got 44 venues so far. Those venues allowed us to record close to 10,000 individual shows that we have in our system right now. And we're working with 2,500 artists. But as you see on the graphs, these are kind of exponentially growing. We're signing up more and more artists, and we're delighting more and more artists every single day. And those artists give us full 4.8 star reviews on Google. You can Google Setmixer. There's always a few that complain about the placement of monitors or things that we have nothing to do with. So it's 4.8 and not 5, but it makes it a little bit more real. We're also recognized by the industry. Music Venue Trust is completely endorsing what we're doing. That's for international listeners, that's the organization that works on behalf of grassroots venues in the UK. So they have endorsed us to their membership. They think that what we're doing is a really great idea for grassroots venues. So why are we doing this now? I think this is a really important development right now, and that is for 3 major reasons. One is, well, live music is actually valued more than recorded music. What a lot of people in the industry don't realize is that live music has, for years and years, been bigger than recorded music. So in 2023, it was 33 billion for live, 28 for recorded. Also, discovery has moved away from streaming. Fans now, the newest generations, discover music through social media, not through streaming services. And so it's essential for the artists to have continuous feed of content. And what we're doing, we're actually giving them their music for free. So when they go on stage, they get their MP3 from us the next day. They are allowed to use that on social media completely free. Nobody has to be paid for that because it's good for us, it's good for the artist, and it's good for the venue. It's just promotion. And the final one is, well, everybody knows the problem with streaming payouts. 3% of the artists make 90% of the income on streaming. And I think Snoop Doggy Dogg just came out today with complaining about like how much money he makes out of his billion of streams. It just isn't good enough to pay £12 and get access to all the world's music. That just doesn't pay out. So we need to have a new model, and paying 70% to the artist for something that people actually pay for. That is a new model that may may solve this. So we are where we are now. We are in a massive inflection point. We have the promotion of music venue trust. We have stable revenue from sharing multi-track sales, and very exciting. On Friday, we are launching our direct-to-fan platform. So from Friday, artists start publishing directly to fans. So we can't wait to see the result of that. We think this is going to be pretty big. And I wouldn't be a good founder if I wouldn't include a slide like this. So yeah, we are, as every startup, we're always fundraising. If anybody thinks that this story is worth telling to some people who may be interested, we're still looking for about $1 million in our current round. So I'm very, very happy to have people from the music industry support us. So please share my email address, which I have on this slide. It's just pascal@setmixer.com. Open to questions.
Thank you so much, Pascal. That's fantastic. Does anyone have any questions that they want to chime in on the mic for? I immediately got one to mind that I've got a thought, but if anyone wants to jump in, quite happy to yield the mic. I'll give it 3 seconds of awkward dead air. Paul jumped in there, 2.5. Crack
Tim,
on.
I've got a question.
Please ask away.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Pascal. Thank you. This is a brilliant story. So what do you? So now you're asking for additional funding. What's the next sort of stage do you think is for your business?
So the next, we're completing the UK. We're very well on the way to complete the UK, and we've got enough funding to do that. But the next stage is then making it go international. So we already have requests from Europe, but we also want to go into the States. Once the model works in the UK, it's just a question of scaling it up. So we're currently proving the model, and then now we want to launch in other places. So it's just purely to fund growth.
Going.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Is anyone else having a question? Okay, I've got one that I wanted to ask. It was really interesting. I thought that you used the language AI-informed filter rather than mixer. What was the thoughts behind that, and how do you feel about potential copyright for AI mixing?
So we are really our principles are that we are artist first. We are here for innovation in music from the artist side. I'm really hesitant around the words AI. So we use AI to, for instance, figure out which instrument is on which channel. So simple things like that. But the AI actually never touches the music. So it informs us, but the mixing itself is not done by AI, because you don't know what an AI is going to do. It may throw all kinds of generative stuff into the music. We don't want that. This is real music of a real artist on stage singing their heart out in front of their fans. If you start auto-tuning their voices or doing all kinds of trickery, it's not real anymore. So we really don't want to have that. So that's why even that acronym AI, I'm uncomfortable with mentioning it, but it is AI informed. And then on the part of filter, especially in an audience like this, you can call it mixing, but it is slightly different. The way that I look at it is kind of compare Instagram with professional photographers. When Instagram came, you could easily snap family pictures and put a filter on it, and it looked okay, good enough to share. But if you would really put some effort into it and put it in Photoshop, you can do a much better job. And that's the same thing with our AI mixing, which you can call it a filter. We create something that's good enough to share within 12 hours, right? And that speed is essential, so that people get out of their live show and they can very quickly access that music again. We don't want to wait a month. But if the artists want to download the multitrack and mix it by hand, which a lot of artists have by now done, and on Spotify you can find quite a few set mixes that artists have created out of our recordings. And also some artists that just couldn't afford to go into studio yet because they're early in their career, they've used our recordings to make their first releases, which I think is really exciting. But all of that is done by hand. You take the multitrack, you mix it yourself. So there are kind of two things here. So calling it mixing is kind of a step too far. We don't want to compete with mixing engineers. It's not our aim to compete mixing engineers out of their business. Now, what we're doing is we're creating a really quick mix so that the fans have something immediately the next day, and not something that you spend a week in a studio on.
That's brilliant. Music to my ears, and it seems to reflect anything sort of truly innovative that doesn't actually take away, it adds more to the pie. So it's not.
That's it, right? These recordings otherwise wouldn't exist, right? So we're not competing. We're not cannibalizing any of the existing revenue streams. We're adding extra revenue from content that otherwise would not be recorded. So it's, by definition, it's just completely additive. Therefore also we feel like this is something that people want to buy. So it's kind of parallel to streaming. People will still pay their £12 to Spotify, but then if they want to go into the deeper back catalog of an artist, they will buy their set mixers. Just like people, I used to pay for bootlegs, and they were like, I don't know, like £30 each. Like, you were really, because you're a super fan, you're willing to pay for that. So I think this is an extra revenue stream for artists, which is really sorely needed.
Thank you, Pascal. That's fantastic. Much appreciated as well. I know I had a round of applause online. I'm going to give it a real round of applause. Thank you so much, Pascal.